All right, we've got Taylor Farm Saute Sunday. I'm not a vegan, I'm not a vegetarian, and I'm going to cook with meat today. This well thought out package of meat with a barcode on it. We're talking $10.63 of USDA choice beef. So I've got my frying pan and I've got my oil just about ready to get started. No Nate's honey. Got Japanese noodles. See if the rice is still any good. I'm gonna have to do some more rice. Effects are back. No effects. Blue screen. Green screen. Oh, blue screen. That is my pet. I guess it's a zebra eel, as far as I just know. They live up to 60 years. So, we'll start with the rice. Got volleyball on in the other room. Women's volleyball. I hope the President of the United States doesn't ever forced to involve himself with women's sports because, as we know already in the history of the Stradivarius, that might be why violins get broken. Sweet. That sounds expensive. You know, if you're breaking $14 million instruments, try not to be gay. The Indianapolis 500 is coming up. Probably came and went. One thing that's been on my mind for 499 years is January 1st in the year 2525. Supposedly by then my zebra eel will have passed away. They can live to be up to 60 years old. Then, after that, if I can only remember, October 7th will be on a Monday, on a Sunday. So it's Monday, January 1st, 2525, and that's followed by Sunday, October 7th, 2525. It'll take forever, but by the time I forget about the time, I bet Xi Jinping's birthday can cosmically align with National Donut Day. That's the kind of thing that starts in 1930s or 1920s. Amazingly enough, we've got heat, but we've also got white oatmeal in this. Alexa, play The Confident Mind, Audible.
Resuming The Confident Mind from Audible. There's about 49 minutes left in this chapter and about 1 hour, 41 minutes left in this book. Brave instructors to see how well they can lead themselves, lead their peers, and ultimately lead the platoon. Whether it's tougher than Navy SEAL training is a question I'll leave for others to debate.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, play Lead Like a Marine, Audible.
Resuming Lead Like a Marine from Audible. There's about 4 minutes left in this chapter and about 5 hours, 40 minutes left in this book.
It comes to Vegas with animals. They come for wall-to-wall meetings during the day and parties at night, which meant that by not setting up any meetings in advance, we had already blown. Well,
I sold my Toyota 4Runner to a Ethiopian once,
research which ones might be
and before that, I crashed it. But I met a man named Skippy.
Each personalized.
Maybe he's into Taylor Farms Stir Fry Sunday.
We spent over $700 in LinkedIn fees to send those target messages.
Intuition can be expensive.
Loan trader from Cantor
If you know what that is.
His calendar was already full, of course,
Whoa.
but he offered to meet us for a drink with his partner Dan Drew on the final night at the swanky Chandelier Bar in the Cosmopolitan Hotel. After we shared our story and plans, Ted and Drew told us that Cantor would represent us as our
There's got flame.
That one drink set the stage for significant investments by two multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, which elevated Lima One to a new level. We finally had long-term access to institutional capital.
Alexa, stop.
To 18 additional states, while eventually...
Alexa, stop. Okay. We've got water on to the right. Latte from Taylor Farms. Pate Sunday. No hate allowed. Leave room for a little number 9. That's what I always say. If you don't have 9 cents, go how now? Round cow. There's the first time for everything. Especially if they're worth a lot of money. I can't think of any cows off the top of my mind, but Alexa, when is Aaron Burnett's birthday? Maybe Alexa knows everything.
Aaron Burnett's birthday is on September 9th.
Alexa, who is Aaron Burnett?
Aaron Burnett is known for Aaron Burnett, Robbie Raccoon.
Alexa, who is the CEO of Google?
The current CEO of Google is Sundar Pichai.
Sundar Pichai. We've got noodles. Alexa, what is Sundar Pichai worth?
Sundar Pichai's net worth is at least $113 million.
Alexa, $113 million. I hope that's enough. A lot of people think that's a lot of money. Alexa, play Sphere by Michael Crichton, Audible.
I could not find it on Audible.
Alexa, play Michael Crichton, Sphere, Audible.
Resuming Sphere from Audible. There's about 2 hours, 48 minutes left in this chapter, and about 9 hours, 59 minutes left in this book. The ball goes almost straight out and takes a... Now imagine the batter gets a high pop fly to the same center.
Sesame oil.
This time the ball goes...
No cream of some young guy in my stir fries.
Seconds before the center field catches.
If anyone thinks that's funny, they'll have to choke on
Now, but perhaps
paper card.
the line drive and the pump.
Another thing I've never considered is eating skateboard parts.
But both these balls
But where would you start?
Space time.
That's the kind of thing you read all about.
No.
Someone just said, "Don't
Yes.
eat that tricky wheel" before.
And in a way, you already know it.
If I would get
Suppose I ask you to hit a high pop fly to the center field there. But to make it reach the field, you're in half a second instead of 6 seconds. That's impossible, Norman said. Why?
So this one time when I was younger, before
If I
1987,
hit it harder,
I was
it will
playing
go higher
t-ball.
and end up taking longer.
Before I decided to hate
Then
baseball,
the low
with
line
passion,
that takes 6
it has to do with their
seconds.
socks or their underoos
Why
or
can't
something.
you do that either? Right.
Nobody's there.
So what you were telling me is that you can't make the ball do anything you want. There's a fixed relationship governing the path of the ball through space and time. Sure. Because the Earth has gravity. Yes, Ted said. And we've already agreed that gravity is a curvature of space-time, like the curve of this ball. Any baseball on Earth must move along the same curve of space-time as this ball bearing moves along this ball. He put the orange back of the ball. Here's the Earth. He put 2 fingers on opposite sides of the orange. Here's batter. That's fielder. Now, roll the ball bearing from one finger to the other, and you'll find you have to accommodate the curve of the ball. Either you flick the ball lightly and it will roll close to the orange, or you can give it a big flick and it will go way up the side of the ball before falling down again to the other side. But you can't make this ball bearing do anything you want, because the ball bearing is moving along the curved ball. And that's what your baseball is really doing. It's moving. I sort of get it. But what does this have to do with time travel? Well, we think the gravitational field of the Earth is strong. It hurts us when we fall down. But in reality, it's very weak. It's almost non-existent. So space-time around the Earth isn't very curved. Space-time is much more curved around the Sun. And in other parts of the universe, it's very curved, producing a sort of roller coaster ride, and all sorts of distortions of time may occur. In fact, if you consider a black hole, he broke off. Yes, Ted, a black hole. A black hole, Ted said softly. Harry pushed his glasses up on his nose and said, Ted, for once in your life, you just might be right. They both grabbed for paper, began scribbling. It couldn't be a Schwarzschild hole. No. To be rotating. Angular momentum would assure that. And you couldn't approach the singularity. No, the tidal forces rip you apart. But if you just dip below the
Alexa, stop. Alexa, play The President's Daughter, Audible.
Resuming The President's Daughter from Audible. There's about 5 minutes left in this chapter and about 11 hours, 25 minutes left in this book. David knows the feeling well. Keating says, tell me what you know. Sir, I'll make it quick, and please, we've got work to do to locate your daughter and protect you as well. Keating's face covers. Don't insult me. I know that. Go. Stahl says, personnel from Fish and Game and the Grafton County Sheriff's Department were on route to Mount Rollins.
Alexa, what day of the week is January 1st, 2525?
January 1st, 2525 is on a Monday. Your daughter's knapsack was found at the Huntsman Trailhead. The body of her friend, Tim Kenyon, was found nearby, shot in the head. No ransom note as of yet. The former president nods, face pale. David says, the New Hampshire State Police were the first responders at the murder scene. They transmitted a bolo for a black Cadillac Escalade that was seen speeding away from the trail. Roadblocks are being set up, and we're asking for airborne units from the Vermont State Police and the New Hampshire State Police to begin an airborne search. Keating holds up a hand. I'm keeping you from your job. Get to it. But is there anything else I should know right now? No, Mr. President, Stahl says. And to himself, as he turns back to Agent Nicole Washington and the procedures that need to be followed and the notifications that must be made, he admits that he's just lying to Matthew Keating. Because Mel's kidnapping is Agent Stahl's fault, and not just because of this morning's warning. 2 months earlier, he's in his small upstairs office in the renovated barn on the Keating property when his desk phone rings. He picks it up. Saul. And Agent Washington is on the other end. David, I've got Director Murray on the line, she says. Are you in or out? He rubs at his tired eyes. He's been working on the staffing schedule for the next 3 months. And as always, he's short-handed. He's always short-handed. Having to ask the detail here to work mandatory overtime, which is a quick way to burn out good agents and send them to the private sector. He's the special agent in charge of the detail, and he should have deputy special agents to take some of the burden. But that position's been unfilled for months. I wish I was out, he says. Put her on. Faith Murray's the deputy assistant director in charge of the presidential protection detail, and she gets right to the point. Stahl, what the hell are you doing up there in New Hampshire? He slowly sits up straighter in his chair. My job, he says. What's the problem? The problem is that you're violating both policy and procedure by providing security to Mel Keating, she snaps. You know how much trouble you're in? Stahl says, we're not providing protection to Mel Keating. That's not what I've heard, she says. Stop the bullshit. What are you doing? He rubs at his eyes again, looks out the small window. There's music and laughter and a volleyball net as Mel Keating is having a cookout with a few friends, Dartmouth students. Right now, Stahl wishes he was their age, worrying only about upcoming lectures and not getting a ball smacked in your face. There's also a dull ache inside of him from missing his wife, Hannah, who these past 5 years has been dead from leukemia, leaving him a solitary widower with no time for or interest in re-entering the dating pool. Field training, he says. I don't want the detail here to get stale, so we do exercises where we're surveilling and following individuals. It made sense to have them follow Mel Keating. Does she know? No, ma'am. And her father? Again, no, ma'am. Then knock it off, Murray says. There are approved training modules. Follow them. And Mel Keating is old enough that she doesn't need protection. Ma'am, what is it? He grits his teeth for a moment. Her father is a former president and a former SEAL operator. It makes sense that he has a number of enemies out there. Lots of enemies. You protect him, and that's it. It's not enough. I say it is, she says. I'm late for a session with the Secretary of Homeland Security. Anything else? Make it quick. He wants to say no. It's not enough, damn it. And if you had worked more in the field, out in the rain and the snow, working long shifts and being alert all the time, you would know. Instead of going to training seminars and retreats and schools, being promoted the bureaucratic way instead of coming from the field, you would know deep in your bones how exposed and vulnerable that thing is. Hell, he thinks, even this compound is vulnerable. At the homes of other former presidents, operation centers are always at an off-site building, so the entire protection detail is in a single target in one place. But the Barnes administration and its congressional supporters have hacked and slashed the Secret Service budget. Some DC commentators said it was revenge for President Keating's decision to contest his vice president's election challenge, and the lack of agents and resources here has been the result. Not at the moment, Director, he says, and she hangs up on it. Stahl is looking at the CCTV screens and says, get Towler and Red back out on the water. Nobody gets within 100 yards of the place lakeside. Got it? On it, Washington says, as she starts quietly speaking into the microphone. And as they've done before in training simulations and drills, the two of them work in sync, keeping focused on the job and nothing else. Protect Harbor at all costs. Even though right now, he feels as though he's failed the president and his kidnapped daughter. Chapter 30. Lake Marie, New Hampshire. Inside the safe room, a soft murmur begins as the expensive and classified HVAC system kicks in, pumping fresh air into space and
filtering any bio warfare pathogens that might have been released on the property. Sal shakes his head. Self-delighted. Do your
You're
job.
on YouTube.
Roll back the outer perimeter,
Marina.
Sal says. Set them up at the secondary offensive line. Phones are ringing. Static-filled radio messages are frantically crackling through small speakers. Agent Chin is behind a thick Kevlar and metal mobile barricade, gently lining up spare magazines on the floor for an automatic rifle, a gas mask nearby in case there's an attempt to break through the door. Mel Keating had been kidnapped. Is that a one-off or the start of something else? Do the terrorists want Sal to try to evac Harbor now, before reinforcements are in place? Take him out by an RPG or an ambush squad when Keating's on the move? Or is there an assault team now moving through the woods?
Is everything okay?
Penetrated explosives to lay siege to the safe house. Washington says the state police SWAT team is responding, going to the pre-approved staging location. Sal nods. If Keating was still serving as president, Sal would have a shitload more resources at his fingertips. Armored vehicles, limousines, helicopter and aircraft within driving distance, and the Secret Service's counter-assault team, which could take on and win a firefight against any standard Army squad in the world. Washington says, we've got 3 agents inbound from Burlington, 4 from Concord, and 8 from Boston. Sal says, who's in the house? Emma Curtis? Or sacrificial lamb, Sal thinks. The bulk of the agents are either here in the safe room or have been pulled back from the Keating property to set up a more defined and local defensive perimeter. But an agent has to be on duty at the main house to receive and brief those agents and other law enforcement officers as they arrive and take on the compound's defenses, because no one is getting in and out of the safe room until it's time for Harbor to evacuate, which isn't happening anytime soon. But it also means that in the wood-framed and undefended house, if an attack comes, Curtis is on her own. Washington says, Vermont State Police is offering their SWAT team. Tell them thanks, and reach out to Concord. Another quick second, and Washington says, Secretary Charles is on the line. Secretary of Homeland Security, Paul Charles, Sal thinks.
Alexa, stop. That's right. Alexa, play source code Audible.
Resuming source code from Audible. There's about 10 hours, 37 minutes left in this book. Weird. I have a film.
Marina, do you know who Bill Gates is?
You can see a dirt yard where our grass hadn't been planted. My sister
He must be my
rides her
brother.
tricycle on a sidewalk so
Lots of money.
the cement looks almost liquid. Across the street is the wood frame of an unfinished house. I watch it and am struck by how everything is so new. As if
Mother's
the
Day.
whole neighborhood,
May 11th,
freshly built
2025.
kids like us.
When's your birthday?
Chapter 2.
June 18th. I know Xi Jinping's birthday.
It started with a boom. Then the house
June
shook.
15th.
My mom had just said goodbye to Christy,
Donald Trump's birthday is
and
June
babysitter,
14th.
as she headed out to meet my father for dinner. When the shaking started, she froze, her hand on the doorknob.
Like water.
At that moment,
It's 4 cups of water,
watched
4 cups
out
of
the
rice.
back window as the carport roof flew over our house and slammed into our backyard, crushing our neighbor's fence. My mother ushered us into the basement where we huddled near our stash of canned food
Now
and
that's
other
looking.
nuclear attack supplies. In 1962, a bomb seemed far more likely than what did disrupt that Friday evening: a tornado. The first in Seattle's recorded history. It formed in
Olympics are coming up.
touched
Less than a
down
year
on
away.
our street and
2026.
shot through our yard before advancing across Lake Washington, where it pulled a 100-foot plume of water skyward. It was over 15 minutes. Miraculous.
I'm glad Tim bought the Cuisinart.
Aside from uprooted trees and
broken windows. Most of the damage in our neighborhood was confined to our carport. The Seattle Post Intelligencer sent over a reporter and photographer. My mother pasted the photo that accompanied the piece. Neighborhood kid posing on a flattened structure and his scrapbook with the rest of my childhood. My father wanted to host a barbecue. Invite friends over and let them check out the massive splintered wood, metal pole, tar shingles that was once our carport. No, my mother said. She was still shaking. Had